Okay. Welcome. This is Rose Stein with Rose Stein Coaching and the founder of the Button the Jeans signature program. Thank you so much for being here with me. Today's lesson is actually about weight loss after fill in the blank. And this is something that so many people struggle with. It's like they're cruising along in life and something happens, and then there's a barrier between them getting what it is that they really want: the health, the vitality, the weight loss, the energy, the clear skin, the balanced hormones, all of that stuff. And really that block seems to be that women have trouble maintaining their energy and their healthy weight after puberty, after childbirth, after age 40 or 50 or 60, after menopause, after a terrible job, after an abusive relationship, after quitting smoking or quitting drinking or any other vice, after dieting, after a diagnosis of some kind of health condition, after a physical disability. So this is all about what do we do after these dramas and traumas happen in our life and we want to regain our health and our vitality. So a client come to me and she was about 80 pounds overweight, mostly in her belly area. Now she was in her 50s and she wanted to lose some weight. She had tried everything. She was a nurse and swears that she eats well. She said she's been to the doctor, she's had all the tests, she's healthy. She doesn't believe in dieting. She knows that she eats well. It's the stress from my job, Rose. I know it, but I love my job and I'm not quitting. Okay, I said, well, you've certainly come to the right place. Let's get those stress hormones back in balance. Now, in so many people, stress drives overeating. But instead of the excess calories being stored as fat all over the body or being used for energy, cortisol, which is our stress hormone, promotes fat storage specifically in the belly. And even if you are not gaining weight, it seems almost impossible to lose that weight once it's stored in the belly area. Now, she followed some simple stress reduction techniques that I told her, balanced out her hormones, and dropped from a size 28 to a size 14 in about 3 months. Now, notice how I said balance, not just get rid of all stress, pretend it doesn't happen, be Pollyanna, have me hypnotize it out of you. That's not how it works. All of our hormones are necessary, especially the ones that respond to stress. Now, hormones affect almost every activity, including growth, metabolism, appetite, puberty and fertility, our immune system, hunger, mood, cravings, sexual desire, blood pressure, body fat, sleep cycles. I could go on and on. Really, the list is endless. So what's the problem? Now, let's look at what hormones are. Hormones are proteins and peptides, which means that they are made from chains of amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. Amino acids are also what our blood is made of. Hormones are also made from steroid hormones, which are derived from cholesterol. Right? Again, cholesterol is important and necessary. Cholesterol is actually a critical fat and building block of cell membranes. Cholesterol is also needed to make vitamin D, and other hormones, including testosterone and estrogen. Those are steroid hormones, and fat dissolving bile acids. So hormones are often referred to as chemical messengers. They provide internal communication between cells in distant parts of the body. Now you can imagine what it's like when we get our signals crossed. Like, have you ever sent a text message or an email to the wrong person? Yeah, I know, me too. It's awful. We do not want our communication signals to be crossed. We want whatever information that we want going to a particular person to go to that person, not to somebody else. And that's what happens in our body when our hormones are all out of whack. So hormones are used for two types of communication. The first is for communication between two endocrine glands. Now, this is where I want to actually share my screen. Let's share screen. And I would like you to look at this beautiful page that we have here so that you can get a little bit of a visual on what we're talking about here. So the first communication is between the two endocrine glands. Now, these are the different endocrine glands. These different glands inside the body, they produce various hormones. So we got the pituitary gland, the thyroid. You probably have heard about the thyroid. A lot of us have thyroid issues, and we notice it either in like crazy energy or no energy at all. It can cause depression and all kinds of issues. Our metabolism, our hunger, our weight is all very connected to the different hormones that are released. We got our adrenal glands, and this is where the stress hormone cortisol is released. And then of course our ovaries and our testes. So this entire system is called the endocrine system, and they talk to each other. And then of course the different hormones that are produced in these different organs then send signals to the cells. So the second part of the endocrine gland is to send signals between the organs and the cells. For example, when the pancreas releases insulin, which causes muscle and fat cells to take up glucose from the bloodstream. So insulin is like, it's like the key, it's the trigger. It sends the signal to the cells, open up for the glucose. So what makes stress hormones harmful to us? Let's go back to stop share. There we go. Hello. Cortisol is a steroid hormone, as we just learned. It means that it comes from cholesterol, which is fat. Yes, fat, lipids. You do need the right ones for proper functioning of your body. Cortisol and cholesterol get really bad raps, but it's just when they're out of balance. They have a job to do. Almost every cell contains receptors for cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And so cortisol can have lots of different actions depending on which sort of cell it's acting upon. These effects include controlling the body's blood sugar levels and thus regulating metabolism, acting as an anti-inflammatory, influencing memory formation, controlling salt and water balance, so our blood pressure, and helping the development, of course, of fetus. When in proper balance with other hormones, because they all play off of each other, we feel refreshed and energized in the morning, especially that cortisol begins to rise first thing in the morning. And that's why we wake up with energy in the morning. If we haven't been eating a bunch of sugar and stuff the night before, we are able to then handle life stressors with ease. Our metabolism is functioning well, our blood pressure is good, and we feel like life is okay. We can handle it. When we are out of balance, we feel exhausted in the morning, stressed out all day. We have mood swings, wild hunger cravings, highs and lows, blood pressure is off. We tend to gain belly fat, and we generally feel overwhelmed. But all hormones work together. They trigger each other. So when one is up, others are down, and then they try to balance themselves out, sometimes gracefully, sometimes not so much, and we kind of end up in this crazy cycle. When you're under stress, your cortisol is up, as it should be. It's designed to protect you. Your decision-making is down, and your need for pleasure, those are the dopamine receptors, are on fire. It's like the Little Shop of Horrors. It says, feed me, Seymour. That's what I think of. All of this drives you to the chocolate cake or other drug of choice. And the more chocolate cake that you eat in response to stress, the less pleasure you will actually get from the cake. It's awful. That's what all the studies that they've done say, that people that are at a normal weight still get great pleasure from eating sugary type floury stuff. But we actually have the proper response to it. It's great pleasure, and then we move on. People who are overweight and their hormones are all out of balance, you actually never get that satisfaction because you never actually get the pleasure from it. You end up being sicker and you start to feel terrible, which drives, of course, then more stress eating. Those dopamine receptors need more but deliver less. It's like, you've seen a kid eat dessert. They take a bite or two, they enjoy it, and then they move on. Their hormones are in balance. They get the pleasure and they go on with living. When our cortisol is out of control, the satisfaction is harder to get. And sometimes we don't even feel the pleasure until we are physically full. Now that's over full. And then that sends other hormones way out of balance. So what can we do? How can we balance our hormones? What are the things that affect hormones? Well, of course, it's going to be the natural functioning of the body and age and the simple triggers that happen as we go through life. But there are 4 ways that we can influence our hormones. Every time we eat, a hormonal response is created. Every time we drink, a hormonal response is created. Every time we think, a hormonal response is created. And everything we do or don't do, right? I'm talking about like the physical activity, creates a hormonal response. So let's focus on the thinking part for just a moment. What do you think happens to your hormones when you eat ice cream? Dopamine is released and we feel good. Sugar hits the bloodstream, of course, releasing insulin, which sends a signal to the cells to open up and let the glucose in. Our blood sugar goes back down, the hormones eventually even back out, and all is good. Now, what happens if our thoughts then begin to torment us? Now, if any of you have ever been on a diet or off and on and off and on, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's thoughts such as, oh, you're such a bad girl. And sometimes it's kind of with a giggle and a laugh, but still, your body hears your thoughts, right? Like it's going on inside, has a certain energy. So we're telling ourselves that we're a bad little girl. This is going to make you fat. You shouldn't do this. You're so weak. You're never going to do this again. Damn, this tastes good. Just a little more. We can't do this again. Let's just finish the carton and never do it again. Boom. Now that thinking has triggered a cortisol release. We have overeaten. Now insulin is now dumped into the system, which stores fat and blocks the brain from seeing leptin, which is another hormone. Leptin tells the body how big we are and regulates hunger. So now that's being blocked and now we're more hungry. Yikes. It's a double, triple whammy. That's how the all or nothing dieting mentality ends up working against us. It can start with a thought or it can start with the food, but they both can trigger each other and send us into a tailspin of eating and storing fat, desperately thinking that if we could just force ourselves to eat well, then we would feel better. And of course, eating well is good, but thinking well is just as important. Okay, so now the good part. I have a wonderful 30-second routine that puts a dead halt stop to the cortisol, insulin, stress cycle. And this will allow you to finally begin to lose that stubborn belly fat once and for all. This is how to trigger the relaxation response, which is the counterpart to the stress response. And it goes like this. Close your eyes. Notice your body. Move your attention to your lungs. Notice the breath of life moves through you. And as your attention moves to the strength and power of the breath, you begin to realize that every moment is a gift. As you breathe in to the count of 4, 2, 3, 4, and slowly breathe out to the count of 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sometimes it can be helpful just to purse your lips a little bit so that it kind of slows the out breath, and we'll be breathing in again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and out. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Excellent. There is only one thing that all negative emotions have in common, and it is the restriction of the breath. You do have the power to control your hormones. Are there going to be things that happen that are beyond your control? Of course. But you, with your thinking, with your intention, with your breath, can trigger the relaxation response at any time during the day. You got this. All right. So make sure you leave a comment below. Does this make sense? All right. I love you. I hope that you're doing well, and I'll talk to you soon.